They revolutionized printing and publishing. Chuck Geschke and John Warnock co-founded Adobe in 1982 and have never looked back.
I think any company and every individual has to have faith that they can continue to create.
I've always reminded our employees that we are the agents of change.
Chuck Geschke and John Warnock contributed one of the essential startups, I would say, in Adobe. The work that they did that led to the development of PostScript is really a fundamental story in the development of Silicon Valley.
We worked very hard on how to take sort of mathematical outlines of characters and automatically generate characters that looked really, really good on a lower resolution printer, and eventually would look really, really good on a display.
Adobe has consistently and successfully made the major moves in allowing people to create and render documents. They really have set the bar.
A standard that has produced not only PostScript, but the introduction of Photoshop, changing how we see images.
If you think about every newspaper, every magazine, every website on which there's a graphic, the video on the web, the packaging on a bottle of water, chances are that a piece of Adobe software was used to create all of that content.
There just aren't that many truly disruptive companies. And I think to be disruptive, what you have to do is use or develop very new leading edge technology, but you have to wrap it into a business model that makes it impossible for the incumbents to defend against. That's what Adobe did.
For us to be effective, we have to invent technologies and products that are so compelling, both from their economics as well as their ability to impact the marketplace, that people will naturally gravitate towards them.
They were disruptive, I think, in the sense that Adobe really brought research and innovation to the masses in a way that hadn't been done before.
The turning point was when Geschke and Warnock were working at Xerox in the late 1970s, where they successfully developed a new language, the forerunner of PostScript. But their ingenuity outran traditional corporate thinking, and it was time to move on.
We called it Interpress, and when we finished it, we described it to the Xerox management who was running the Star Workstation project, and he said, "This is fantastic. We're going to make it a corporate standard." So I immediately got on an airplane. I flew back to Xerox headquarters, and I said, "Well, when can we start marketing this?" And they said, "Oh, wait a minute. You can't talk about this to the public." I said, "Well, how is it going to be a standard if we don't do that?" And they said, "Well, at Xerox it takes 7 years to bring out a product."
And Chuck and I thought this was crazy. So we were very, very frustrated. We said, gee, we can sit around and have this great job in the world's greatest sandbox forever, or we can go do something.
One of the first things the new company did was to form an association with a young Steve Jobs at Apple in 1983.
Think of the day Steve Jobs came in and said, "I'll pay you a lot of money for the company." And I thought, wow. That time, that's when I thought, okay, we've got something really good and we're out of the woods.
And so I called up Steve and he said, "Well, how much do you want for the company?" And I said, "No, Steve, not for sale, but we'll sell you the software." And so we did the deal. And by the end of our first year of being in business, we had turned a profit.
One of our very first rabid customers was the Center for Disease Control, because now they could take their medical alerts and their disease alerts, and rather than ship them around by a mail to 800 facilities around the world alerting about a disease outbreak, they could email them with a PostScript file and put in all the charts and graphs and all of the stuff and notify people about a disease outbreak just as it was happening.
In the 1990s came the acquisition and further development of Photoshop. Warnock found once again that he and Geschke were passing boundaries once thought unreachable.
When we bought Photoshop, there were no scanners. The machines had enough hard drive to hold a couple of images. They were teeny, teeny, teeny little machines. And now you look at the size of memory and the size of the machines that you're dealing with, and now it's only the imagination that's constraining people.
The publishing and printing business will never be the same.